It was supposed to be just another college trip, a few friends, some laughter, a break from classes before graduation. The plans sounded simple. 3 days at quiet beach town where we could relax, swim, and forget about deadlines. I remember the excitement on everyone's faces as we packed our bags into the bus that morning, the air filled with the smell of sunscreen and energy drinks. But what I didn't know then was how much that trip would change something inside me. Among all my friends, there was one person I felt closest to, my African friend Daniel. We had met 2 years earlier in a photography class, and from the first day, there was something about him that drew me in. He was confident without being arrogant, funny without trying too hard, and he had this calm way of looking at the world that made everything feel less complicated. We became close. Group projects, late night talks about life, secrets shared over coffee, the kind of friendship that feels natural, effortless, and safe. Or at least, that's what I told myself. The bus ride was long, and Daniel sat beside me, his headphones on, nodding to some slow tune I couldn't quite hear. Occasionally, he'd remove one earbud and offer it to me, smiling like it was some secret we shared. I took it, listening to soft beats mixed with the sound of the road beneath us. Every so often, our shoulders brushed, and I'd pretend not to notice, though my heartbeat always gave me away. It was nothing, I told myself. Just closeness between friends. That'd be why the time we arrived. The sky was heavy with the colors of sunset. The guest house was small and simple. Wooden floors, big windows, and a view of the sea that looked painted. Rooms were limited, so we shared 2 beds between 4 people. But by some twist of luck or fate, Daniel and I ended up in the same room, the others choosing to bunk together after dinner. I tried to act normal, but inside I could feel something tightening, a mix of nerves and a strange curiosity I couldn't name. The first evening was perfect. We had a bonfire on the sand, our laughter echoing under the stars. Someone played guitar, others danced barefoot on the beach, and for a while I forgot everything else. Daniel sat beside me, his face lit by the firelight. He looked peaceful, his smile soft and unguarded. When our eyes met, I felt something inside me stir, an awareness almost electric. I looked away quickly, pretending to poke the fire, but the warmth on my face wasn't just from the flames. Later, when everyone started to leave the beach, Daniel and I stayed back for a moment. The waves came and went, brushing close to our feet, and he asked if I was happy, not just in that moment, but in life. It was such a simple question, but it hit deeper than I expected. I said that I had someone waiting for me back home, that things were fine. He nodded, but there was something in his eyes, something I couldn't quite read. Back in the room, the lights were dim. He was scrolling through his phone, the glow reflecting off his skin. I sat on the edge of the bed, pretending to check my messages, but feeling his presence beside me like a quiet hum. We talked a little about college, our futures, the people we thought we loved. At one point, he laughed softly and said, "Sometimes I think people only show parts of themselves. The rest stays hidden until someone really sees them." I didn't know what to say to that, but I felt the truth of it sink. As the night grew deeper, I turned to look at him once more. There was no reason to feel the way I did, no logic behind the pull, the ache, the sense that something unspoken was hanging between us. I told myself it was exhaustion, that I just needed to sleep. Still, as I lay down, I could feel him on the other bed, the rhythm of his breathing slow and steady. I closed my eyes, but the silence between us was louder than any noise outside. That night, before sleep finally took over, a single thought repeated in my mind, that sometimes the things we try hardest to ignore are the ones that quietly start to change us. I woke up in the middle of the night, the room filled with a faint silver light from the moon spilling through the curtains. The waves outside were soft, like a whisper that never stopped. For a while, I just lay there, staring at the ceiling, feeling my chest heavy with thoughts I couldn't name. Sleep refused to come back. My mind kept circling the same questions. Why did I feel this strange pull toward Daniel? And why did it scare me so much? I turned to the side and saw him still awake, lying on his back, his phone screen dimly lighting his face. He noticed me watching and smiled. "You're not asleep either?" he asked quietly. I shook my head. He sat up, resting his elbows on his knees, and for a moment we just listened to the sound of the sea outside. There was something comforting about that silence, something real. Duddy spoke first, his voice low and calm. "I was thinking," he said, "about how some people come into your life and make you question everything you thought you knew." His words hit too close to home. I didn't reply, but my heartbeat quickened. Then he added softly, "You ever felt something for someone you knew you shouldn't?" The question hung in the air between us. I want to look away, but I didn't. My throat felt dry as I finally answered, "Yeah, once. Maybe now, too." He looked at me then, not with surprise, not even with judgment, just quiet understanding. It was the kind of look that strips away all pretense. That we started talking about love, confusion, the people we pretended to be for the sake of others. I told him about my partner back home, how everything felt distant lately, how I'd been pretending to be okay. He listened without interrupting, his gaze never leaving mine. When he spoke, his words were slow and steady, as if he wanted each one to matter. "You don't have to be ashamed of what you feel," he said. "Sometimes it's just the heart trying to be honest." The air between us grew heavier. I could feel the closeness, the pull of something we both understood but didn't dare to name. He moved closer, not enough to cross a line, but enough that I could feel the warmth radiating from him. It wasn't about the body. It was about everything unsaid. My chest tightened, not with fear, but with the strange comfort of being seen. For a moment, no one spoke. The silence was alive, almost trembling. He reached out and placed a hand on my shoulder, a simple gesture that carried more weight than words ever could. It wasn't a move or an invitation. It was reassurance, a connection that had been building quietly since the first day we met. My eyes closed for a second, my breath unsteady. I didn't pull away. When I opened my eyes again, we were just looking at each other. Time felt suspended, like the world outside had stopped. I don't know who moved first, but suddenly the distance was gone. It wasn't about right or wrong or what might happen next. It was about a moment where two people allowed themselves to feel something real. No loud confessions, no promises, just quiet truth. When it was over, we didn't say much. Daniel leaned back, his eyes on the ceiling, breathing softly. I sat there, still trying to process what had just happened. My thoughts tangled between guilt and relief. He broke the silence first. "We don't have to make sense of it," he said gently. "Sometimes things just are." I nodded, unable to find words. My heart felt heavy, but not from regret, more from the weight of knowing that something inside me had shifted forever. He gave me a small smile before turning off the lamp, and in the darkness, I could still feel his presence beside me, steady and calm, as the night faded slowly into dawn. I lay awake, staring into the quiet light seeping through the curtains. I knew nothing would ever be the same again. There was a strange peace in that thought, mixed with fear, mixed with guilt. And yet, beneath it all, there was something else too, an undeniable truth I could no longer hide from. The morning light crept slowly into the room, pulling me out of uneasy sleep. For a few seconds, I forgot where I was, but then the memories of the night rushed back with a weight that made my stomach twist. He was still there, close enough that I could hear his breathing, steady and calm, as if nothing in the world had changed. For him, maybe it hadn't, but for me, everything felt different. I slipped out of the bed quietly, trying not to wake him, though part of me knew he was already aware. The mirror on the wall caught my reflection, and I hardly recognized the person staring back. My mind replayed every detail, every choice I had made, and a heavy sense of guilt settled on my chest. I thought of the life I had outside this house, the trust one had once promised someone else, and the fragile line I had shattered in just one night. When he finally stirred, he smiled at me with a kind of ease that almost made me jealous. There was no trace of doubt in his face, only a quiet understanding. He didn't press me with questions or try to force a conversation. Instead, he offered me coffee, acting as though everything was normal. That calmness only made the storm in my head louder. I wanted to ask him what this meant, if it was just a moment we would bury, or if it was the beginning of something I wasn't ready for. But the words stuck in my throat. Later, when I left his house, the air outside felt heavy, like the world somehow knew what I had done. At the gym, the following days were strange. We acted as though nothing had happened, but our eyes betrayed us. Every time they met, there was a flash of recognition, a memory we both carried but couldn't speak aloud. Sometimes it felt thrilling, the secrecy binding us together in a way no one else could understand. Other times, it felt like a chain, a reminder of the betrayal that sat quietly in the background of my life, that I found myself avoiding certain conversations with my partner, avoiding too much eye contact, avoiding questions that could lead anywhere close to the truth. The guilt gnawed at me, but so did the pull toward him. It was as though the more I tried to distance myself, the stronger the invisible thread between us became. Every workout, every shared smile, every accidental brush of his hand against mine, it all fed the conflict burning inside me. Nights were the hardest. That was when the silence left me alone with my thoughts, and the memory of that night replayed over and over. Sometimes I told myself it was a mistake, a lapse of judgment that should never happen again. Other times, I wondered if what I felt with him was real, something I had been missing without even knowing it. The questions never stopped, and with each passing day, I felt myself sinking deeper into a web I wasn't sure I could escape. Days turned into weeks, and the weight of what had happened refused to fade. I walked through my routines as if nothing had changed, but inside, everything was different. The distance between who I was supposed to be and what I had done grew wider each day. I caught myself staring into the mirror, searching for answers in my own reflection, wondering if guilt was written on my face for the world to see. At the gym, we still exchanged glances. Sometimes they were soft, filled with an unspoken understanding. Other times they were sharp, reminders of a secret too heavy for two people to carry in silence. He seemed more at peace with it than I was, moving through life as though he had accepted whatever we had done, while I was still trapped in endless circles of doubt. My chest ached with the thought of how easy it was for me to lose control, how quickly trust could crumble in the hands of temptation. One evening, I found myself sitting alone, thinking about love, loyalty, and betrayal. I wondered if what I felt that night was real affection or just a weakness born of desire. Was it I longed for, or simply the thrill of stepping outside the lines? The questions had no simple answers, but the consequences were real enough. My partner's trust, the life I had built, the quiet promises I had once made, all of it stood on fragile ground as he reached out once more, asking if I wanted to meet again. My heart leapt at the invitation, but my mind screamed against it. I knew that repeating the same choice would only tie me deeper into a story I might never escape. For the first time, I admitted to myself that I had to decide. Either I cut this secret thread before it strangled everything I valued, or I let myself fall, accepting the wreckage that would follow. In the end, I chose silence. I didn't reply, didn't go back, didn't allow myself another night like the first. The ache of walking away was sharp, but it carried a strange kind of relief, as though closing the door was the only way to breathe again. The memory remained, vivid and unshakable, but I let it live only in the past. Looking back, I realized the night had been both a warning and a lesson. Desire can disguise itself as love. Temptation can whisper louder than reason, and in a single moment, a person can step across a line that takes years to recover from. I carried the memory with me not as a triumph, but as a reminder. Love is fragile, and betrayal is a shadow that never truly disappears. And so, I walked forward, carrying both the guilt of what I had done and the knowledge of how easily it could happen again. Some stories stay hidden forever, but their echoes never stop shaping the person who lived them.